Like it or not, all eyes are on Starfield, and this is something that concerns me greatly. But because we're honest here, as a dev, I'd rather prefer the hands-off approach to making games. And that's not to say that things couldn't have been improved and shouldn't be improved, but overall, I would rather Xbox and Microsoft be the money behind the creative mindset. And there's reasons to this, and I'd like to share some of those as a dev's perspective, as the concerns that I have for Starfield. Because let's be honest, Starfield is a Bethesda game, and that is a plus and a minus at the same time. Bethesda is a very well-earned title, and that's not to say I'm less excited for Starfield. In fact, honestly, like I said, all eyes are pointing to this game. Listen, I don't like what Sony does with paying to keep games off of Xbox, and at the same time, both things can be true. I don't think Xbox should do the same to Sony. In the best way to kind of phrase it, the old adage, an eye for an eye leaves everyone blind in this case. But we got to talk about the reality. We got to talk about the state of gaming as it exists now, not how we wish it would exist. And I'm guilty of talking about how I wish gaming would exist, the ideal that we should strive towards. But we have to talk about Starfield. We have to talk about this, the impact that Redfall has on Starfield and the impact it has on the Xbox brand. Now, this isn't just my voice echoing this. We got ACG tweeting out, Starfield is going to have to come in hot. Like one of the planets, it should be Skyrim being simulated. And this is in relation to the showcase that is coming out on the 11th. Now, here's where things get interesting. Phil Spencer, as of today in the recording, he went on a podcast talking about with the Kind of Funny crew, many different things, how he feels really disappointed in Redfall and more. And here's some highlights that I'd like to kind of highlight. Shinobi tweets this out. Different version won't out console Sony and Nintendo. Now, they lost the worst generation to lose within the Xbox One era. This is where everybody built their digital library of games. This is exactly what I've done. The majority of people have shifted to digital, which is what the data shows. You might be an avid physical, system supporter, physical disc supporter, and I'm not judging you for that, but you are now in the minority when it comes to how these games are consumed. He also goes on to say, there is no world where Starfield is an 11 out of 10 and people will start selling their PS5s. This line alone is concerning in and of itself, that I think he feels the pressure, he feels that disappointment, and even if Starfield does deliver on everything that everybody could possibly want with it, well, honestly, you're going to be looking at a game that is just going to be a game. And some people are going to like it, some people aren't. And just like I talked about with the problem with Redfall, I think Starfield is going to be another opportunity that you're going to see the console wars flare up. You're going to see people fighting it out. But that's not because Xbox hasn't earned the reputation that it has. Let's be honest about the state of the platform. Now, I like my Xbox. I know that when I talk about anything Xbox and Sony related, I get hit on all sides. So feel free to punch me as much as you want in the comments. It only supports the mission and the message that I want to give you guys. As a software engineer, as a dad, as a gamer, I think these things and my voice hopefully adds to the value of the conversations out there rather than subtract from them. Now, McQuack tweets this out, talking about why this is important, kind of like, really summarizing the last couple of years, especially 2022. No Square releases on Xbox. That's a massive concern. Outside, I think we got the Final Fantasy Origins. It's a weird relationship with Square Enix, to the point where either Sony purchased them or stop blocking those games. And no matter what, whenever I talk about this, I know I get the the Sony and the Square fans. So I'm a Square fan in this case, coming in, and they'll avidly say that those games don't sell on Xbox. That's why they're not there. That's not true. Like fundamentally, it isn't true that those games don't sell. Maybe don't sell as well as you would like, or maybe the expectations, but that is enough of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And also on that note, it does not justify the fact that they shouldn't be included. If that was the case, Microsoft could easily cash a check to cover. Like if you're going to say this game needs to sell at least 300,000 units on this platform. If it doesn't, we'll make sure that we make you whole. That in and of itself, I would say, is a blaming of Microsoft. Keeping it completely off of the platform, it just seems strange, right? Like, that seems like a business deal that could be fixed. Very few physical releases. I think that's just the nature of the status of gaming. It was their first $70 first-party game, first Bethesda exclusive. Obviously, messaging on the game's release, and obviously 2022 having abysmal offerings. The question remains, and hopefully the answer is through action rather than words. Phil Spencer going on a podcast does not necessitate like great confidence. It shows that he's willing to step up. Like, I really enjoy Phil Spencer as a leader. In fact, like yesterday, just on Twitter, people calling for him to be ousted. Jez says, in this case, sorry, but people calling for Phil Spencer's resignation are way out of their depth. Xbox is having record quarters repeatedly under the leadership. If everything's perfect, no, but please get some perspective. David Jaffe actually following him up, saying, please don't paint everyone as some raving, uneducated, inexperienced fanboy. I love Game Pass, but we have loved playing my X since the drop. But Xbox management of prod dev is genuine, chronic issue that we've been seeing for 3+ years. This, does this mean that Phil must go? No, I don't think that falls onto Phil Spencer's head completely. However, this is a problem that they have to fix. And to the point where, and I guess the question to you is that if Starfield were to be delayed, is that okay to make sure that it's the product and the quality that it should meet? Again, remembering this is a Bethesda game, a Bugthesda game, and all eyes are going to be focusing in on it and targeting it. Now, kind of one aspect of here, I'm going to kind of, bring David back into the case. He's not some raving, uneducated, inexperienced fanboy. Let's talk about this, guys. Don't be in a cult. And if you think that you'd never join one, chances are that's a red flag for me in your case. Let me kind of focus in on my mindset. I don't have any desire to cheat on my wife. Do I have the capability of it? Yeah. And because I know that, I put in defenses. I protect my wife from the near occasion of sin. That would be the phrase that I would use in this case. Same thing when it comes to this. The internet and these algorithms are absolutely working on your mind right now. And because of that, you might think like, oh, I'm not, going to get swept up of it. And I would think that, and I would hope that you change that thought process and consider that always be a possibility. So I consider that for myself. I have to be very wary of the media that I'm consuming on a day-to-day basis, because it has the ability to turn us all into whatever side, whatever spectrum, whatever you want to believe, into kind of that radical mindset where we start kind of viewing each other as adversaries. I cannot stand and will not support anybody who calls and roots for a game's failure. Hands down. If you're out there rooting that Starfield fails to justify some kind of expense on a PlayStation, you're in the wrong. Also, at the same time, if you're rooting that Starfield's going to be this 11 out of 10 and everybody's just going to abandon the PlayStation ecosystem, that's also just not possible. That's not going to happen, and those expectations need to be set appropriately. What we need to hope for and voice our, and raise our voices and communicate and provide feedback for is, like in Phil Spencer's case, is like his disappointment hopefully can lead to change. And bringing this all back to the very start of this video, talking about the freedom for these companies to act and to do their thing and to create their thing. One of the things we've seen time and time again, especially with acquisitions, is companies come in and they try to bring in their culture, try to force all these different changes, and things break. People don't necessarily like the work. My hope in any of these acquisitions, as Xbox tries to build up Game Pass, which I absolutely adore. Like, it is a great service for me, especially when it brings in xCloud streaming for me and the kids, opening us up to a wide range of games. Its greatest weakness right now is the games that I do purchase, I cannot yet stream through xCloud, and I think that is a big miss for the Xbox and xCloud platform as it exists right now. I do believe that's going to change. I hope that's going to change soon, but we're going to have to wait and see. But I do hope that we can see that Xbox, from a quality control perspective, is able to kind of look at how these games, how Starfield is going to affect the brand, how Redfield should have been managed and how it has affected the brand, and how it has added in extra pressure in on Starfield. unnecessarily so. If Starfield has to be an 11 out of 10, if it has to be that, it in and of itself is going to be a very difficult thing. And also in terms of review scores themselves, I think that that leads us down a really subjective and random dark future. And here's what I mean by this. We've been talking about this over on Twitter today. If you guys, I get the Twitter platform, and in and of itself, you need to manage your social media correctly. It is like a drug out there. Same thing with hype. So just beware of the forces that are being pushed onto your brain and into your feed on a daily basis, even me included. Like, don't subscribe if you don't like, this kind of content in your feed. Like, it will, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get these kind of discussions. But when it comes down to it, when we look at the key aspects of this, I think that gaming has actually shifted more to a value perspective rather than score. Scores are used, and one of the things I think they're used incorrectly, if you guys do not know, especially when bonuses and pay are tied to Metacritic scores, that's why this whole console war stuff really does frustrate me. Like, I've hired devs out of like Gearbox. I've hired people who've worked in that industry who can't afford to work in that industry. When things are good, things are always going to be good. But when things are bad, like, it is, we don't want to lose that talent. And I think that's a big part of what we're seeing within both gaming and the structure is this kind of, burn and churn. EA is very guilty of this. I talked to a lot of EA former devs, and it's like, yep, they're gonna grind you into the dirt. They're not gonna pay you as much because you're gonna get paid because you have a passion for making games. And it's unfortunate that that's kind of how the industry goes. I think the industry for gaming loses a lot of talent because of that. But bringing this back into full focus, I don't mind if, and I think probably in this case, what I hope Xbox does, what Phil does, is puts an extra level of quality control into that game, and then able to make the hard call if it needs more time, so that way they have and put out the best product for you and me to play without bugs and issues. When like having a bug in a game isn't the be all end all, but when I hear about like progress being wiped out, that in and of itself isn't acceptable or should be, accepted as a quality measure. And then we talk about 60 frames a second. That should be a bare minimum, especially on the newer gen consoles. I think that's a core expectation players have set. I think Xbox has tried to set that as well. And then I don't know why that they thought it was okay to release it at 30 frames. I was calling for that delay weeks ago. For Redfall, same thing goes for Starfield. I think they need to hit some key metrics and figure out how to make it hit those metrics in and of itself. Then, all of that being said, when it comes down to it, I don't still want them to then go and have more control, more creative control over the whole process. I want them to be able to let these studios and these creatives become and build the things that they want to make. Phil Spencer could come in and tell them to make something. If they don't want to make it, they're just going to leave, or it's not going to be necessarily a good game. Still, we'll have to wait and see as more information comes out. That's real information. Lots of stuff out there on the internet that is absolutely fake, and you got to be very careful about being hooked in. This ties back into that cult comment, being tied into this, like believing the first thing you see because you want to believe it. Be very careful out there. Be skeptical, be suspicious, ask questions, and then you'll find your way working towards that beautiful, beautiful truth that we all seek, or at least we claim that we like out there on the internet. Anyway, guys, I'm very hopeful for Starfield as a Game Pass game. Like, it's just a part of the fact that I'm enjoying the service. As a pre-order or a cost per value, don't pre-order ever. It's 2023. Let's get away from that practice. But beyond pre-orders alone, just wait. Just always like have a little bit of skepticism, and then if it does hit, don't pay the hype tax. I guess if I was going to leave a final phrase, if you guys made it to this part of the video, let's do a special secret call out. Hype tax. Let's get rid of it. Let's not donate our money to hype, but rather let things kind of fall where they may, and then support the things that we want. If we have a marketplace of good ideas, our money goes to support the good ideas, and those can be raised up. But if we keep being subject to hype, we're going to keep seeing these problems continue on. And I know that's a losing battle because hype is a drug, and I know that out there it's easy to get caught up in. And so I think we just need to keep, as a gaming community here, trying to preach the good news of patience. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for your time. Love you faces. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully I will see you in the next one. If you feel like it earns it, hit that like button on your way out. Otherwise, you can always double tap the dislike button, as it has not been working as of late, except for when we talk about Sony and Microsoft. There's definitely some of you out there that do not like my my takes on things. Thanks, guys, for being here. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully I'll see you next time. But until then, take care.